Ah, so good evening, and we'll be waiting for a minute or two, and then we will begin our discussion. And the topic for the day is the secret recipe of growth. What ingredients and how we have to cook to be at a growth path. Meanwhile, those who are there, if you can just comment and confirm if it is clearly audible, so I can begin on. Can someone just comment if it is clearly audible? Can someone just comment in if it is clearly audible to all of you? Meanwhile, I am just setting up these settings so I can begin on. That's it. So, hi, good evening, and thanks for joining. Can someone just comment in once and tell that if it is clearly audible to all of you? Can someone just put one comment and confirm it is audible so I can just begin on? Okay, fine. So I believe that it is clearly audible, and the topic for the day is the recipe of success, or we can say the recipe of growth actually, because ultimately the end result of growth is what success is all about. So when we talk about growth, and when we talk about what is the recipe that has to be used to be on a growth path, so the main ingredients that all comes, what are the ingredients we have to take, how we have to cook it, at what temperature, and when we serve it well, then ultimately we will be at a phase where we can say that we are actually growing up. So when it comes to growth, so there is a small story, like that's the way I begin, and I love to begin. So a small story to begin with. The story goes like this. There was a sculptor who was making beautiful statues around, and who was known for his statues. So he was doing it, his life was going on, he was doing fantastic sculptures of it, the statues out there, and the demand for his statues was increasing day by day. When all this was happening in his life, he blessed with a son. Then his son started growing from a kid to adult, and subsequently during the life or his adulthoodness, he learned from his father about making those statues. So after few years, he started helping his father, and then he started making his own statues. By the time he grown up as a good sculptor once again, like his father, and when he started making his own statues, then every time when he used to make a statue, he used to show it to his father, and in every statue his father used to find one or the other mistake. And when his father used to find that mistake, then he used to tell, that father used to tell the son that these are the lacunas of your sculpture. These are the areas that you have to grow upon. These are the areas which you have to still develop. These are the finishing work you have to take care. And he used to accordingly work on it. He used to make them the final piece, and then he used to take those to the market. In this journey, whenever he was making and changing, day by day, year by year, moved on, and he became one of the famous sculptor in the market. He even overruled his father's statues, and the price that was coming for his statues was in multi types, multi folds than the price that was coming for his father's sculptures. So when it all started, then every time he used to make a sculpture, he used to make a statue, and his father used to see, and his father used to tell, this is the thing, you change this and you correct it. After spending few years with his father, one day he felt that now my sculptures are being sold at a higher price than my father ever earned, and still my father is finding a mistake in it. So he thought that he grown up as a matured sculptor now. So one day, after losing his temptation or the control, he said to his father that, Dad, every time you are finding some mistake in my sculptures, my statues, but actually my statues are being sold at a higher price than yours. So his father said that that's good, but then he said that still you find many mistakes in my sculptures. So what does that mean? He said that these are my observations which I am making. So he said that henceforth you don't give me those observations. I will not show you my sculptures, and I will finish them and I will take them to the market. So from that day he stopped showing those sculptures to his father, and he continued to make them on. The moment when he grown up or he moved on, after few days and months, the day came where the demand for his statues started decreasing, and even subsequently the price that was coming for his sculptures have stopped at a stringent point. After certain amount, the people were now not ready to pay him that price. So in that, when this was happening, and finally a day came where the demand for his sculptures have came down almost to zero, his statues started lying at home. Then after realizing that, he went to his father and said that I don't know what went wrong, but now there is no demand for my sculptures, and I still don't understand, because I'm making them at par, at my best of my skills are being utilized. So on that his father said that if you understand, then I can tell you a simple thing. The day when you stop taking my inputs is the day when your demand have stopped in the market. And then he asked his father that, were you aware about that it is going to happen? Then the father diggles his head and said, yes. Then the son says, then why don't you tell me that time, that if I don't take your suggestions and I don't find my lacunas from your observation, then I will be out of the market. Then the father said, because that time you were not in a position to listen, you were not interested to listen, and I did not made you understand, because few years back I also went through the same phase of my life. When my father used to tell me, I never told him that to make any observations and find my mistakes. Instead, apart from my father, I used to show my statues to other people, the seniors in the village, who used to find more mistakes in it. And I used to correct them and make it a perfect sculpture which would be put at a par price. But when you started growing, when you become a good sculptor, then the moment came when you started ignoring my inputs and you started your own, because you felt that you are satisfied with it. You were satisfied with your skill sets. You were satisfied with your sculptures. So the day you got satisfied with your sculpture, you killed your growth. And that's the gist of the story, that the day in all our life when we stop taking the inputs for growth, our growth stops. And we become satisfied and we put a door closed to the growth path, and after that we don't keep on moving ahead in life. So my friends, when in real life, when we deal with many situations, many circumstances across, then when we interact with many situations, circumstances, people, problems, solutions, and when we feel that now I am a right person to handle my life or my situation on my own and I don't need any inputs from anyone, then the day starts where we start diminishing our growth. Instead, we lose the entire growth that we have acquired across the years. So, the recipe, the secret recipe for growth says, before we get into the ingredients of growth, a small message says that one of the best way to become the best version of ourselves is to continue to grow as a person. And this line have touched my heart indeed. When I read this line, then I could not insist on making a topic on it. I will just repeat the line for you all once again, and the line is, one of the best way to become the best version of ourselves is to continue to grow as a person. And when we take the journey to grow as a person, our life will take you to the aspired destinations which we always dreamt about. So like that son of that sculptor who grown as a sculptor, if he would have continued to take the inputs of his father, then he would be in a position to be the best sculptor on the earth for that period. But when he denied to take them, then his growth got stopped. So in our lives, whenever we feel we handle situations, we conquer many battles, we win battles, but while going ahead, we have to ensure that we are taking the inputs, the growth ingredients are being accepted by all of us, and we learn out of it, and then we implement and we grow to the next level. Now coming to the main ingredients, what is the recipe of growth then? What is required to make that dish called as growth, which would be served better for the life? So to make that fantastic dish, the most delicious dish of our life, that is the growth, it says that when you begin on the story or begin on the journey, it has 6 ingredients. It has to have the 6 ingredients which have to be cooked better and which have to be served at par in a delicious dish which people love to have. Especially we love to have that dish, and we take, once we finish our appetite of growth with that dish, then we will move to the next journey of the next growth of our life. And the special ingredients that are required to acquire a unchallengeable growth in our life are these 6 ingredients that we have to cook them well. Before I get into the 6 ingredients, I just want to tell one thing, that whenever you understand that recipe and when you start cooking that recipe for self, make sure that we never stop cooking that dish. It should not happen that today I have cooked and for a month I continued and now I got bored with that dish, so I changed the dish. Never make that. The day we do that, we become that son of that sculptor, and our growth will start diminishing subsequently and we will go back in our life. Instead, the real essence of life or being alive is that we have to keep the next step with more matured way, which brings us more close to success, and when you are successful already, which you can sustain for a longer period, especially when it is your own life. So, coming to the ingredients that are required to make a growth recipe, I call them as the secret recipe. Reason being, if it is known to everyone, then everyone would achieve the growth. But that is not happening in real science. We see many people across in our real life, but we don't see all of us growing together. We see our own life also, that at some stages we grow, and after some stages our growth comes to a stringent position, after which it is hard to crack that nut and grow ahead. When it comes that way, then the recipe is important, that we have to cook in a much better way. And to make a wonderful growth recipe, the secret recipe that is required to serve that growth dish are these 6 ingredients. Let's begin with the first ingredient of this growth dish. To make this growth dish more delicious, more serving, more enchanting and mouth watering for us, the first ingredient that we have to use is that we have to learn and we have to choose love instead of our feelings. What does that mean? We feel many a things. We feel for many a things and many situations and peoples and positions. We have an undesired feeling. We even feel the fantasies for those which attract us. But that is just a feeling. That is not the true love that we make. Like in real life, we have some relationships which we love in real sense, for which we are ready to do anything for them. And we make ourselves 24/7 available for them as well. But there are many attachments we have with many people where we just attend them as and when it comes. We don't indulge in serving our 24/7 for that connections. So when it comes to growth, we have to choose the real love, what we actually love for. What is that for which we have a strong bond of love? Instead of just having those feelings, it is like setting a trend and becoming a fashion. There is always a difference between the trend and the fashion. Trend keeps on trending from time to time, but fashion remains untouched. So, if you want to become that grown, if you want to have that continuous growth in your life, then we have to understand the difference between our feelings we have for the things and what we actually love. And once you decide what you actually love, then make sure that you are surrendering yourself completely to that love and you are ready to make any attempt to achieve it by hook or crook, but by making the sincere efforts at par. When you choose your real love and when it is ready to get connected with, the second thing comes that we have to start saying no to the toxic relationships. All the people whom we connect with in our real life, let it be our family, friends, social connections, friends, well-wishers, the Facebook contacts, Instagram followers, and many other things, the office colleagues. Not all relations are meant to be our relations which help us to grow. There are toxic relations as well. If you just recollect few names from your contact list, you will understand. When you scroll on that contact list, there are few names whom you don't feel like talking to them at all. It is not because you have some disconnect with them, or this is not because of some grievance you have with them, but you know that when you talk to them, it is more of the negativity that comes or urges for. When you tell something about your life situations and what is going on here and there, then they will add on that petrol to fire up the negativity in your life instead of talking on the solution. And we sincerely understand for at least ourselves that the people who talk about problem and the people who talk about the solution. So we have to understand the people who talks about solution, because they are the healthy relations we have, whom we have to nurture well, which will be our life garden, which will keep on flourishing like a cherry blossom. But if you continue keeping those toxic relationships in your life, then the day is not far when you will be stingent at growth. Instead, you will go steps back in your life. So, once you decide what you love, the second thing you have to do, or the recipe that we have to add to the dish of growth, is we have to cut off those toxic relations. It would be better if you delete those numbers from your scroll down list, because anyways having those nuts would never help us. Instead, the moment you start on catching them regularly, it becomes more toxic. Your thoughts get converted from to the positive and the problem solver to the problem creator. It takes you backward. So when it comes that way, you have to start cutting off those toxic relations, and you can understand the toxic relations when you understand the real love in your life you have. Real love could be anything. It could be a relation, it could be a person, it could be a contact, it could be talking to someone, it could be a situation, it could be a group, it could be attending certain particular events, it could be anything. And when it comes that way, there are some events you should avoid joining. There are some people whom you should avoid getting into. There are some people whom you should keep away from you. That's what we call the second ingredient, that you have to cut off. Say no to the toxic relations. And the moment you say toxic relations, they are the one who are making the poison into your food. That is the growth. So the second ingredient is saying no to the toxic relations. And once you say no to those toxic relations, then comes the space available for yourself where you can add on to the third ingredient of growth. And the third ingredient of growth says that feed your mind with educational and inspirational content. It says feed your mind with educational and inspirational content. When you cut off the toxic relations, when you know what you love actually, then you have to add on the curriculum required to achieve it, to make them healthy, to shift yourself to the next level. And when you want that shift to happen in your life, you have to cut off those toxic relations, and you should know what you love. Because if you go with the same dilemma in your life, then the shit happens. And if you cut off, and if you know what matured is and how to nurture, then the shift happens. And we have to understand that. Once you understand that, start feeding your mind with the educational and the inspirational content. What does that mean? How to educate yourself? The best way to educate yourself is to educate others. Any topic which you want to learn, this is one of the examples and the best learnings of my college life when I was in my MBA, that the topics which were made more difficult, which I was unable to understand and crack them hard, then I used to discuss them with my friends. And this I really did. Those who are my college friends and classmates, they know that from a book I used to draw around 2 to 3 pages of notes. And then I used to discuss that with all of the friends, and we used to make them correct, and that used to become our Bible for that subject, which is an abstract from the many references we have taken. When you do that, you learn. When you teach, you actually learn. So start learning, start educating yourself about the context is where you want to grow in your life. Crack the main topics, understand the definitions, understand the basics of it. Don't indulge into getting on to making that complete kheer. Understand what is required to make a kheer. The kheer will be always ready. First understand what is required. You should know that to make a kheer, the sugar is required, not the salt. If you understand that difference, then you are 50% there at doing the kheer. And when you do that, when you feed yourself, when you feed your brain with educational and the inspirational content. Educational is the ideas, the thoughts and the galamas which you have to learn to keep yourself moving and shifting ahead in life. And when it comes to inspirational content, what does that mean? Inspiration is what? What is inspiration? Motivation. What is motivation? Motivation is like air. Motivation is like air, which is always there around, which we are breathing in and breathing out, but we never see it, but we sense it whenever it comes to the stake. When we need motivation, we are highly demotivated and we need it, yes. When you need a motivation to live, when someone feels to quit his life, when someone wants to end his life, that is the period where he needs that motivation to live more and survive more. Same way, you will understand the value of oxygen when you will have that ventilator, paid for that ventilator. Until then, we never understand. Same in our real life, we never understand the value of inspiration and motivation unless it becomes the core need to survive at that point of time. To avoid that ventilator, we have to keep on enjoying and sensing that air which is surrounded all around the world. Inspiration comes from not only inspirational sources, it comes from all the sources where you are ready to knock. Because it is rightly said by someone, which is one of my favorite thoughts in my entire journey, that demotivation is the biggest motivation. This line really touches my heart, and I fell in love with this line. Whoever have written, I still don't have not learned that who have written it, because on Google you see many people writing about. So when you find a demotivation, find to crack out of it and learn that motivation, the message that it want to give you. And once you make it, you are done with your third recipe, the third ingredient for the growth. That is feeding your mind with educational and inspirational content. Make sure that you listen to some motivational songs instead of listening to those sad songs. It is a real life scenario. When someone goes through a breakup, they tend to listen to those sad songs. But when someone gets into the real love of life, they start listening to the romantic songs. When you are going for a journey, when you are going for a exam, when you are going for some competition, you listen to the motivational songs, and that comes on your beats. You start saying them aloud. Why is that? Because that becomes our ventilator for that moment. So what if you keep regularly happening it around, you would be always motivated. There would be nothing called as that you need to feed them again and again. Try to understand the positivity of everything. Start your every morning with a good inspirational video. Read at least 4 to 5 lines which talks positivity about life. Understand the success stories as well. Even if you go through a sad story, understand the gist because of which that success was denied in the real life. That is our third ingredient to make the growth dish ready. The fourth one is become a student for life. The moment when you love something and when you decide what you actually love, and when you cut off and say no to the toxic relationships, and when you start feeding your mind with educational and inspirational content, then the fourth ingredient is to survive and sustain them by becoming a student for life. What does that mean of becoming a student of life? That means very simple. We should be open to learn everything and anything that comes across, immaterial if that is useful for us or that is not useful for us. Reason being, the one who leave behind or deny to be a student for life is the day that we deny to be grown on life. We deny the journey. We don't take the train of growth then. The dish will not be served properly, will not be cooked properly. What if you want to make a tea and the ingredients are you need tea powder, you need sugar, you need milk, and you need water, and you need a stove to light it up. What if you don't have one of them? Will that be a complete tea? Don't say that without milk I can make black tea. To make a black tea, if one of the ingredients is not there, still it is not a black tea at par. So to make it and to enjoy that growth dish served well, we have to have this ingredient, the fourth ingredient, that is becoming a student for life. And how to become a student for life? To become a student for life, we have to say yes to all the learnings that are coming across. And whenever those learnings are coming across, the moment you are catching them, you have to say yes to them. It is not only school and college or some interviews you have and some exams you come across where you prepare yourself, but it is real life. Every day is an exam, and every day you have to learn something out of it. If you look at any picture and any wall or something, you learn out of it. In one of our groups, that is learner group, we share a pic, and these 20-30 guys out there, they share their thoughts, their learnings, and not a single learning is matching with the other one. That means from a single pic, if there can be 30 learnings, 30 ways to look at life, then how much learning is there in real life if you are ready to be a student? So we have to start learning it. There are many thousands of free forums available online where you can actually learn. But for that you have to make some time out from your so-called busy schedule where you can prioritize your learnings as well. And once you start on that, once you have this fourth ingredient, that is becoming a student for life, the fifth ingredient says, or that is required to make it little spicy and entertaining dish of growth, the fifth ingredient says that we have to create the habit that are wealthy. Now what does that be creating a wealthy habit means? There can be a positive or there can be a so-called example as well, but one of the favorite examples I like, if you are drinking alcohol, then make sure that your choices are at par. You are not going with the fast flowing market brands. You have some top niche selections. So whenever you drink that one only, by which there are 2-3 benefits. One, you are having a class apart. You have made your wealthy habits. Second, when you want to afford it, you have to earn for it. So subsequently you are growing yourself to earn for it. Third, you are not lagging in those negativities where the people are flowing and coming and drinking like hell and they are vanishing off. You are standing like a shining star. Immaterial drinking is bad for health, but it was just an example, nothing else. Talking positively, what does that wealthy habit means? Try to go to places where you get an urge to grow more in life, where you get acquainted to grow in life. Now how to do that? Go and watch. For example, you have to watch. Now we all are quarantined and we watch more of movies and shows and here and there. What will become by watching those suspense stories, the horror stories? If you don't understand the real life stories like the 300 movie or the movie of Guru, which was about the great Dhirubhai, or many success stories. What if you watch those movies instead of watching these so-called fancy love stories and the sad stories and fascinating these the suspense stories nowadays which are coming on this Netflix and other platforms. Understand those real life stories. Watch documentaries more. Spend time. Talk to those guys who are far ahead in life than you. Sorry, it got disconnected. Hope it is back now. So I was talking about the fifth ingredient, that is create habits that are wealthy. Try to spend on something which makes you to earn more. Instead of buying these fancy mobiles and this and that, how many times you brought Kindle? How many times you brought books? How many books you have in your house compared to the clothes you have in your house? So that makes you wealthier. So understand that what makes you wealthier. So develop those habits which can make you wealthy. Start learning how to give. Become a giver than a taker. Understand that. Connect with people who are from different arenas. Go little crazy on connecting people and connect with them and chat with them. Many forums are available. That is the fifth ingredient, that we have to create the habits that are wealthy. After that, the sixth and the last ingredient of life is about growth dish is that get used to stepping outside your comfort zone. Now what does that mean? Main problem is we all fail in understanding our comfort zone. We feel that whatever I am doing the most possible efforts on the earth, and nobody can be so sincere than me. Nobody can become so hard worker than I am doing my work. Actually, that is the comfort zone where we are sitting like Kumbhakarna and we are saying yes to everything. It would be a bad example to call that guy Kumbhakarna, because Kumbhakarna, if you understand his history and his story, he was one of the legend. He knew that there is a death in the war food, but to support his brother, he jumped into the war food and he died. Now the Ramayana is going, you can understand from it. So be that Kumbhakarna. Understand the things. Understand the comfort zone, but when it is comfort zone, when you defined it, then try to jump out of it. Cut off your sleeping hours. Don't get bored with the routines. Instead, make those routines more creative, more attracting, make them something that can ignite you to sparkle here and there. The moment you make them, the moment you start loving them, you become the top niche of your life. But the problem is same, that we fail to define our comfort zone because we are so comfortable in our comfort zone that we don't want to get out of those cushions at all. How to understand what is comfort zone? Very simple. Change your day routine for 3 days. Change it abruptly. I say it abruptly because unless you don't do it, you won't get to jump to the next level and understand where the growth is there. What is the actual dish of growth taste like? If you want to taste that growth, you have to have this ingredient, and this ingredient calls to quit and step out of the comfort zone. And when it comes that way, then my dear friends, first try to define your comfort zone, understand your sleeping hours, at what time you are getting up, what are your routines, how you start your day, how you end your day. Are we giving preference to the health? Are we giving preference to the brain? Are we growing by both B's? One is the brain, second one is body. Because unless you don't have a healthy body, healthy physique, you can't expect a pushing up and polished brain as well, because it grows there itself. So just to summarize once again, the 6 ingredients of the recipe of growth. This is called the secret recipe, and the recipe goes like this. I will just repeat it once again for all of us. The first ingredient is choose what you love instead of just going with the feelings. Differentiate that, understand what you actually love for. Second ingredient is saying no to the toxic relations we have in our life. Cut them off, knock them off, delete them from your contact list. Get out of those groups which are toxic in nature. Third one is feed your mind with educational and the inspirational content. Try to keep sensing that air around, the motivation around, before it becomes a need like a ventilator. Fourth one is become a student for life. Now, how to become a student for life? That you have that enchanting element that keeps your desire for learning always on and on and on. And the fifth ingredient is create the wealthy habits. Create the habits that are wealthy, that are healthy, which makes you more wealthy, which makes you more healthy. Create those habits. Don't hang out with people who spend more time on the bars. Spend with people who lift the bars. That is my favorite, again, being from this fitness alema. But mainly in Marathi it is said that तुमचं आयुष्य सुंदर तेव्हा होतं जेव्हा तुमचे पहाटेचे मित्र वाढतात आणि रात्रीचे मित्र कमी होतात. It is very simple. Those who are getting up in the morning and working hard on themselves, instead of the evening guys who are spending and having some hangout and having some booze at. So get out of it. Develop those healthy habits. And the last and the sixth ingredient, the most important ingredient is get used to stepping out of your comfort zone. And like the story we told in the beginning, the first one, understand that story, never say no to the inputs for self, keep that chanting always enlightened. The growth is not something that you achieve once and the dish is ready and you enjoy it and then you are ready for the journey of life. It is an ongoing dish that is like the water we have in our house. Name any dish, it has some quantum of water. Same way, to make anything perfect in life, the dish of growth is required, like water. That is main element of everything. And to make that dish, growth dish, these 6 elements are required. This is the recipe to make it. So cook them well, serve it well, and enjoy the growth, not for once, but for always. So here now I am done with my session, my thoughts. Now I am eager to listen to your thoughts. If anyone wants to say something, share something, please start commenting. Meanwhile, let me thank the joinees. So I thank Tanuja, then I thank Rohit, I thank Harish, I thank Dhananjay, I thank Prashant, I thank Harish Bhatt. I thank Pramod, Tushar, Kaka, thank you. Rupali, thank you. Santosh Bhagat, Sagar Janwade, Saiba Namaste. Sandeep, then Sidgauda Patil, sir, Namaste. Then Ganesh Swami, Yogesh, sir, hi. Tata Sahib, Mahesh Pawar, Pramod Durgade, Nitin Bhosle, Dada Sahib Limbikai, Nishikant, hi. Komal, thank you. Yasin, thank you. Shashikant, thank you. Praveen, thank you. Nitin sir, thank you. Nayan, thank you. Deepak, thank you. Chandrakant Sahib, thank you. Ranjana Madam, thank you. Kaki, thank you. Rajesh Bhatia, thank you. Sam Neharkar, Rajesh Deshmukh, Rohan, Yogesh More, Mayur Shinde, Vikas, Viraj, Subramanya, Mahesh Avtade, Vivek Gole, Mahavir Patil, Hemant Sitole, Amol Kognole, Sachin Dobre, Santosh Nakane. Sir, hi, thank you, and I'm sorry I could not revert on your message. Just ping me once, I will be connecting with you again. Akshay, thank you. Vikas, Dhanashri, hi, thank you. Good to see you here after so many years. Rinku, thank you. Mahavir, thank you. Umakant, Akshay, Rajesh, Deepak, Subramanya, Kishore, Dada, thank you. Jatin, thank you. Ishwar Sahib, Namaste, thank you. So now I am open. If you want to share anything, please go and comment. I am done with it. So always remember this most beautiful line before I conclude. The line says, one of the best way to become the best version of ourselves is to continue to grow as a person. One of the best way to become the best version of ourselves is to continue to grow as a person. So keep growing and enjoy the journey, and don't forget to make the dish well cooked. Don't forget any of the ingredients of 6, and I'm sure that we all will rock together. So see you tomorrow at 10 with a new topic. And till then, take care. And my favorite lines, stay young, stay happy, and keep pushing yourself. Love you and take